Keene to find deliverance. Located in Paxton, barely a smudge of a city in the great expanse of central Illinois farmland, it sat practically hidden behind the squat courthouse. The jail dated back to the 19th century, but more recent renovations were practically a monument to indifference, grafting two mismatched brick buildings to the original limestone structure with as much thought to design as a pile of toddler's blocks. On the inside, the hodgepodge design continued through a warren of cramped, oddly shaped cells that stank of urine and body odor. For Keene, any time he spent in the jail was a special kind of torture. "I'd rather be in a hardcore prison and have to worry about getting stabbed," he says, "than be confined in that little nasty ancient history shithole." Unfortunately for him, Ford County Jail was somewhat centrally located on his road to ruin. An hour up the highway in one direction was his hometown of Kankakee, where he was busted for conspiracy to distribute cocaine. Down the highway from Ford County in the other direction was the U.S. courthouse in Urbana, where he took a plea on the drug charge and was sentenced to 10 years. Then he was held at the jail a few days longer until he was transferred to the custody of the U.S. Bureau of Prisons. He did not relish returning to Ford County yet again in 1998, even though he would be closer to family and friends, and he certainly didn't look forward to seeing Lawrence Beaumont, the assistant U.S. attorney who had summoned him from his federal prison in Michigan. He blamed Beaumont most for his crushing sentence. The prosecutor had worn a full beard then, shot with gray, and Jimmy remembered how he stared down on him in the courtroom from a terrible height, like some Old Testament prophet, eyes blazing and voice booming. When Keene's lawyer, Jeff Steinbach, told him that Beaumont was ready to talk about a deal for an early release, Jimmy says, "I immediately thought it was some kind of trap." Keene had not been any small-time dealer. In the 15 years before his arrest, he had built one of the biggest independent drug empires in the Chicago area. Along the way, he had dealt with a tempting array of targets for the feds. His suppliers included a Mexican drug lord and Chicago-area mafiosi. Among his customers were porn stars, yuppies, cops, doctors, lawyers, club owners, and the adult children of prominent politicians. After his arrest, some narcotics detectives even asked him to give up damaging information about his father, also named James Keene and known as Big Jim, a popular former ranking officer in the Kankakee police and fire departments who had influential friends in the highest reaches of state and local government. "They wanted me to cooperate in the worst way," Jimmy says, "but I always refused to testify against anyone in court, and I wasn't going to start, no matter how many years they kept me locked up." For the meeting with the prosecutor, a sheriff's deputy put Keene in handcuffs and shackles, then marched him into the jail's tiny, windowless conference room, where his lawyer, Steinbach, was waiting. Although Keene was cuffed, sheriff's deputies still crammed in around the table to watch over him. Soon the prosecutor himself entered and stared down at him again. Only this time he was accompanied by Ken Temples, a benign, balding FBI agent Jimmy hadn't seen before. Beaumont then sat opposite Keene and, with a typical dramatic flourish, slid a fat legal file across the table. Jimmy nonchalantly grabbed it with his cuffed hands and lifted up the flap, putting on his best poker face to mask his reaction to whatever he saw inside. Still, nothing could have prepared him for the first glossy photograph he pulled from the folder. This was not a picture of a drug dealer or local big shot. Instead, he saw the battered, naked body of a young woman, sprawled between rows of standing corn. Her skin was torn and discolored. As best he could with the cuffs, Jim turned over photo after photo of the grisly scene, first thinking, "Are they trying to pin this on me too?" He looked up, expecting to see a scowl from Beaumont, but the prosecutor's gaze was no longer as hard or even accusing. Keene continued through the file. One photograph was of a second naked victim in a ditch, but other pictures were of smiling, attractive young women. They could have come from high school yearbooks. The file also included terse police reports from Indiana, Michigan, Wisconsin, even states as far away as Utah. Some of the teens had been found dead, and, like the girl in the cornfield, with signs of strangulation. Others were still missing. The pageant of beaming